So I'm a Q&A Eric Reardon, programmer here at Big Apple Film Festival. So first, I'm going to ask you guys just again one more time to introduce yourselves and the name of your film.
In the order that we show the film?
Sure, yeah.
Okay,
So
sure.
BFF.
My name's Maggie Politi. I wrote and executive produced BFF. The director, Megan McAfee, couldn't be here, so I'm representing her tonight on stage.
Okay.
I'm Maya McCullough, and I wrote and directed The Fall Leaves.
Okay.
My name is Marianne Hettinger. I wrote, directed, acted, produced, did props for Prince Harming.
All right, so we're going to start off first. They're all such great films. And what inspired you to write, produce, direct, to do this film? What was the connection, the inspiration for each one of your films? So if you...
Sure. Yeah, so my grandmother's best friend gave up a child for adoption in the 1960s in Mississippi, and she was part of a big Catholic family. So she doesn't talk about her story very much, but I started, basically that was the inspiration for me looking into, what actually happened and or what could have potentially happened, and I just delved into this whole world of these homes for unwed mothers and adoption forums where people are currently looking for their birth mothers who are at homes like these. So it really kind of just took me down this whole piece of history that I didn't know about, and I think a lot of people don't know about. So that was the inspiration, and it led me to writing the script for this was my thesis film. So.
Oh wow, okay, great. Can we just move up a bit, just so I think everyone can see us a little better probably. Okay, and what was your inspiration?
So I co-founded a nonprofit production company with Spiro Marcos, and we decided last year that we were going to do a female film initiative called Ladies in Action, and we produced 4 short films that were all written by, directed by, and starring women. And we predominantly do comedy as far as our production company goes, but we wanted to do something that was really eclectic, and so we decided that one of the films that we were going to produce we would star in, and I wrote it, and that was kind of, we just wanted it to be the in the lineup of the 4 films. And I wrote it with my best friend. We kind of exaggerated our relationship, but we had a really great time while we were doing it. And honestly, it was really fun. Like there was really not a very stressful process because all of it was just laughing and being with my best friends and working with my best friends.
Right, which makes sense, BFF. We're going to get to you in a second, but in terms of filming, like your film was so beautiful to look at. The cinematography was gorgeous.
My DP is here. She's over there. Olivia Peters.
Gorgeous. Absolutely. So not only was it like this really beautiful drama, but it was just beautiful to look at. So what camera did you use? Could you tell us a little more about the filming?
Sure. The Alexa Mini. And we knew that we wanted to put on top of it in post grain, and my editor actually has a package of film grain that Moonlight that Barry Jenkins used for Moonlight, and so we had options from that. So in terms, and also my DP Olivia colored it as well. So she shot it, and she knew what we were going for in terms of the color palette, and also being set in that particular location. And as far as inspiration, it's all still except for the shots when the girls are in labor.
Okay.
So we wanted to keep it very still, and we just loved we had a zoom lens, obviously, and we loved using it and just giving the actors space in the 2-shot to complete their performance. And Lady Bird was a huge inspiration as far as the look of the film.
Yeah. It definitely had that look.
Yeah.
So it was just beautiful to look at. And in terms of location as well, so with you, where was the location that you ended up filming? Because, it was inside the restaurant, but then you guys were out on the street, which was hysterical at the end. Like,
Yeah,
skipping.
I loved your locations, by the way, though. I
Yeah,
just
what
wanted to
was your
say, I was like, that
location?
house, like, wow, beautiful.
Yeah, so location as well
yeah.
after.
But we shot at Legacy Records. It's a brand new restaurant that just opened, and a friend of mine owned it, and he just let us use it. Basically, they have like a private room that they use events for, and they weren't using it, and so we scheduled a time with them, and then we shot the outdoor, the exterior, literally right outside the building. So it was very easy for us. We shot the whole
Yeah.
thing in 7 hours.
Okay, and for you, where was it shot as well?
It was shot in Oakland, Mississippi, which is about 30 minutes away from Oxford, where Ole Miss is.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to shoot it in the South. I grew up in the South, mostly in Memphis, and so I ended up finding the location actually because it's on the market.
Okay.
And got in touch with the homeowner, and we ended up having a great relationship with her. And it used to be a bed and breakfast. It's a historical home that she and her husband refurbished, and so she was really, really great during the whole process of the film. And we rented it out for a little over a week.
Right, okay, thank you. And one more question for our short films, and you know, in terms of character development, even though they're both short films, both of the films had these very strong characters, even in yours. Like, you knew right away, like you could get a sense of the characters right away. So, you know, like, you know, do you think that the choosing of, you know, your actors for that helped, or, you know, what was it that you were able to really right away get the audience in, and you just knew right away who these characters were? I mean, it really gripped us right away, so.
Yeah, so the two main characters in my film are both NYU alumni, and it's interesting because Carol, the one who's a bit more eclectic, and the one who's the leader, who's more of the secondary main character, she was originally written as having like long, beautiful hair and being very girly, but when Molly came in, I mean, my producer and I it was undeniable that she had, you know, this very natural essence about her that kind of added to the character that was on the page. So I think in terms of casting, like I said, this was my thesis, so it was a big learning experience for me
Right.
of, you know, having sort of that lucky mistake of running into somebody who really brings
Yeah.
so much more to the character than I could have imagined.
Yeah, definitely. And for you as well?
Well, for me, I was writing it for me and my best friend, so it was really easy for me to picture exactly
It
how
really came through.
how we would say
I
things,
feel.
but also
Yeah.
every person that I used in most of the projects are people that we knew, and so it was, you know, we didn't have to do any type of casting sessions or anything because we were in a group of actors, and so we just kind of pulled from our
Yeah.
friends. The only person that we cast was the guy who played Steve opposite me. He's the only person we didn't know, and we found him on Actors Access, and he just had
Wow.
amazing reels, and we were just like, he's funny, we're gonna go with him,
All
yeah.
right, thank you. So now we're gonna, you could please tell us first, inspiration. What was your inspiration?
Inspiration really from life.
Okay,
I have been involved or been thinking about a relationship abuse for a long time. Unfortunately, when I was very young, I was in a relationship that was abusive, and I was completely startled when it turned bad because I thought that was really, really sweet guy. So from then on, that was in my early 20s, I started helping women in domestic violence shelters or domestic violence groups, you know, and I was surprised. There's a lot of women who are at times very strong. They're not the typical victim. They're lawyers. They're from all kinds of walks of life. And it does happen to them, and they're very functional. They function great in their lives, but then in their professional lives, but then when you go privately, there's a whole other thing can happen. And then a lot of times, yeah, so that's basically it. So I took it from life, and it unfortunately happened to me. But I thought it's a very universal story, even though the story is very specific. I'm a little nervous.
that's okay.
But a lot of people, also men, can be in abusive relationships. And at what point do you say this is now an abusive relationship? Where does it go over the line? You know, when is he just a jerk, and then all of a sudden, you know, this is going too far. This is a sociopath. So
Yeah.
the small little signals start happening.
So the great thing about your film is, as the viewer, you don't realize right away what's happening, and so it's almost like you're on the journey with your character,
Oh, good.
and then all of a sudden it turns, and like you're stuck, and you realize what's going on. So you were able to craft that so well. What do you think helped do that? And you know, another thing is, you know, you're being abused by your husband, but you're somehow able to get the audience, and maybe this is from, you know, the actor, they did such a great job. We still feel for him too.
Yeah, I was going for that. I
So-
didn't want him to be the evil guy and she's the poor victim. So I wanted to show more shadings. So you also, because she also has compassion for him, because if she still tolerates him and he's only a mean guy and he doesn't have still some of the sides that she loved to begin with, why wouldn't she just walk out? So I wanted to show those
Yeah.
nuances.
And you definitely accomplished
Thank
that really greatly.
thank you.
And, you know, so leading to that then, how did you go about casting the film then? Because really, you know, those involved, the actors, really were able to, you know, really get, I think, what you wanted to do spot on, and I think that was what led to like the success of, you know, bringing us along with that, you know, with her journey.
I wrote the script for actually 4 years. I took a lot of time, did a lot of research, and when I went to casting, there were 2,000 people per role that applied.
Wow.
Actors access through agents and wonderful people, and then I brought in like 10 actors for the lead role, and there were some amazing actors, and there was a Martin Ewens, who is here today. Is he still here? I don't know. And he did such an amazing job in the audition. There he is. That I took a whole night to rewrite the script for British. So,
Okay.
and then, but finally, then I decided to go with Andreas, who is very close to the character in terms of, he fit the bill. And I knew him from before. I had danced with him in a dance company together, Anti-Gravity. So I went with him. And he
Okay.
had already done a film where he showed those shades of, you know, different shades.
Right, because you could definitely see that.
Yeah, but Martin is still in the movie.
You know, since it was so personal for you too, you know, what were the challenges of making this film? Like, you know, I guess technically were there challenges, but also personally.
Yeah, technically, for example, the first day of shooting, our DP, our cinematographer, had a medical emergency with his heart. So we had really planned for a few months, and we were supposed to shoot with 2 cameras, and then he couldn't shoot. He shot the first day, and then I had to find a new cinematographer. I'm with a group called the Film Fatale. That's a directors' women's group.
Yeah.
I love them, and they have recommendations. So they were able to recommend a lady cinematographer, Valentina Caniglia, who jumped in within like 24 hours, and she hadn't even read the script.
Okay.
And we talked about it. She read it really fast, and we started shooting next day because we had actors from LA. The clock was ticking. There was a lot of money involved for me because I put everything out there.
Right.
So back to your original question, technical difficulties, and then the challenge writing something. I took enough time to lay back and observe, have a little distance to the whole situation, and just took a lot of time with the script.
Yeah.
So I knew who my characters were, and I knew what the story was about. Just to put it into a film is always different, right? It always comes out a little different than you wrote it at first. You have to also sometimes take scenes out
Right.
that just didn't work, or different reasons.
Okay. And if you, you know, all these stories are just so great. You know, if you had one really like main goal that you wanted to reach with your film,
Good question.
what's the goal of your film?
The goal is for victims of domestic violence not to be ashamed that they're in this situation to begin with, because it's it's very widespread. A lot of people are ashamed, they won't talk about it. And it's really time. If somebody abuses you, it doesn't matter if it's in a professional situation or in a personal situation, you step out there and you don't let yourself get killed or made very small. You know, you just look for help.
Right.
If you go to a group, your friends, you don't let yourself be isolated. And you also listen to your friends or your mother.
Right. Your mom in this case, right?
Yeah.
And
By
it's
the
usually
way, my wonderful editor Peter Mostert is here, and maybe the people
Yeah,
who
if
are
you
in my
want to
movie
bring, you know,
can come
those
here.
involved, if you want
And
them
then
to come
Thomas
up,
W.
come on
Campbell
up, and then
in
we'll
sound
open
design.
up our questions to the audience. So if you guys want to bring
now, or?
call, yeah, let's
Yeah,
call
let's
up
have some of the cast and
some
crew.
of the cast
for
and
you
the crew
guys.
up,
Do you have your
and then we'll move our questions
Robert
out
and
to the
Olivia.
audience.
And Olivia.
Let's have Lenore Loveman.
Come on up,
Played
and
my
please
mother.
walk
Martin
around the
Hewins
box.
plays Lando
the back.
Cox. Simon over here. She also helped me with the casting. Martin is in good shape. Oh, careful. You might have to go the other way.
Exactly.
You might
It
have
was
to.
not explained.
Yes.
Yeah, so
not
just
so
walk
easy.
around.
Oh, my phone.
So at this, and everyone, please come forward. So move up so everyone can see you. So meanwhile, we still have a couple of people walking up. I'm going to open up our questions to the audience. Okay. So does anyone out here have a question for any one of our filmmakers or the other people involved? Any questions? Any questions out there? No, not yet. Okay. All right. So I think we're still waiting. Okay. I guess, one question I have, questions. Go ahead.
Yes. I loved all three of your films, by the way. They moved me very differently, each one. Okay. A question I have is about the end of the film. When the man changes, I got lost. What was happening? Was that a change of character, or was it suddenly acting?
It went from real life to fiction, which is not really fiction. She's making a film about her experience.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Ryan. Good question. Any other questions? I know I saw another hand up somewhere towards the back. Yes.
I thought it was interesting that you said you took a very long time to write your script because it was personal to you, but you also had a very strong message that you wanted to convey to that would be understandable to your audience. Can you talk about the process of when you had to set the script down because it was too close, or how did that make you feel, and then at the same time you're trying to create a great product?
It was a daily process. Sometimes I waited a couple of weeks, then I would look back at it. There's a gentleman named Benny Benowitz who I met almost weekly, and he teaches screenwriting. So he helped me to edit stuff out. So I had like a third eye. So he was helping me and bouncing ideas back and forth. I wrote the whole thing, but he helped me to edit. And it's so important to edit, especially if you're very close to a story and you have experienced some of it. And after a while, you look at it from a distance and you don't take it personally anymore. It's a universal story now.
All right. Thank you. And one more question?
Yeah, I do have one question. A lot of people would say, I love him, I can't leave him, I can't leave him. How do they get over that? How can they get over that?
That's the danger. Because you still imagine the person how they were when you first fell in love with them, and now you wake up to reality. If it hurts, if you don't feel respected, if you feel small, if you don't love yourself, if you feel ashamed, all these things, it's really tough, because in the end you might still love the person and they have hit you, and you still love them somewhere. It can be very dangerous for a woman like that, if she doesn't get out of the relationship and physically leave. Also, just the mental abuse is very bad. So it's almost as bad as physical abuse if you get mentally beaten down. a lot of people go through that.
Right, thank you. So I'm going to finish up with one more question for our filmmakers. If you could please tell us what the next step is for your film, where your film is going next, any plans, and any future projects that you might be working on. So we'll start with you.
Sure. The film is showing at Oxford Film Festival, so
Great.
close to where we shot it,
Okay.
and that's in February. And then we're waiting to hear back from about 15 more festivals, I think. So
Wow, okay, super.
yeah, so we're hoping to just keep rolling on that, and then
Thanks.
I'm also working on the feature version of this story.
Oh, great, keep us posted.
Yeah,
Thank you.
definitely.
Okay, and for our next. Yeah, sure, go
I'm
ahead.
taking over. So we have our production company together. We are doing a screening of our 4 Ladies in Action films on February 11th at the White Hotel in Williamsburg. So that's step 1. No one's ever seen BFF before, so because we haven't even released it to the public yet. This was like the first time anyone's ever seen it, including us on a big screen.
Oh, great.
But we also got into the New York City International Film Festival, which is really exciting, so we'll be there. We're submitting it to more. We just wanted to like feel out a few, but now that we have seen it, we're gonna start releasing it to more festivals, things like that, and we're gonna keep working on it. We are considering making it into more of an episodic
Right.
type of situation, and yeah, for now, we just really wanted to see how that would feel to an audience.
Great, thank you.
So great.
Yeah, our film right now is in Calcutta, India, Calcutta International Cult Film Festival, and won Best Women's Film, but they haven't screened it yet, so it's still a world premiere here.
Right.
And then we're in Idlewild International Film Festival in California, March 6th. That's the next festival.
Okay, great, thank you. So,
Excuse me,
you want-
can
yeah,
I, the problem is not the questions.
yeah,
I need to make some little interpretation. I'm very moved, especially by Prince Charming. I'm
Right.
a writer,
okay,
and I wrote many things. And I never expected this so inner blood drama between the joyfulness of love and and consequences affiliated with the desire and the sex. In our age, sex is so close to the death, and this is the like shortcut between the sex and the death, and the sexual life is fulfilled with so important. The sexual life is so close to death more than to life, because especially in Prince Charming, the first part of the movie was so like the delightful of the life, and
Right.
suddenly appears the closeness of the death. This contrast, this counterpoint, make me I see the most deep existentialist movie from Europe,
right,
and I'm very impressed. I think this
thank
is
you.
the
Yeah,
great-
you know, good point.
the
This
great
is Johan
success.
Giemal, by the way.
The great success, yeah.
Thank you. And you know, if I could say one
And-
thing,
and also, yeah, just a second. For the second movie, where is the pregnant lady? Also was impressive. Their their expressions of so much unconscious,
right,
unconscious and conscious split between the inner life and external life. It's very. I'm impressed of the acting of the heroes.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. Especially also.
that's
in
why
the
they're here
Prince
tonight.
Charming. It's a
We agree.
great success.
Thank
from
you,
the
thank you.
professional
And-
point of view, yeah.
Thank you, I appreciate it. And actually, he brought up a
Because
good point.
you
Just,
ask
know,
only some technical questions. How did that? Not important. How did
Yeah.
that? Much important is that
the existential
effect.
questions. Okay.
I mean, emotional effect upon the audience is
Yeah.
incredible.
Well, I think that's why all these films are up here tonight. And, you know, actually, we're going to end on the existential point of these films. If we'll take what he said, sex and death, I think that's why it's so dangerous for women.
And BFF was hilarious.
Every woman,
Yes, thank you.
every woman is heroine.
It's so close that, you know, that's what women get trapped in. So, you know, so anyways. Have a good night. Thank you. Thanks for coming out tonight.